He walked in like a man who'd never heard the word no. Polished shoes, a jacket too new for morning court, the faint grin of someone used to skipping lines. Beside him sat his father, broad-shouldered, silver hair, cufflinks that caught the fluorescent light as if it were a camera flash. The docket read, People v. Nathan Reynolds. Judge Caprio glanced over his glasses. Mr. Reynolds, you're cited for 40 over the limit in a residential zone. Your plea? Nathan didn't lift his eyes. My attorney says this is procedural. His voice had that easy weight of inherited confidence. The judge's eyebrow rose. And where is the counselor? The father stood instead. Unnecessary, Your Honor. I'll handle this. He spoke as though he were authorizing a shipment, not addressing a court. A few heads turned. The judge folded his hands. You'll handle a traffic offense for a grown man? With respect, the father said, already impatient. We all know what this is, a small matter that needn't consume anyone's morning. My son was late. I'll pay the fine now. We don't take cash at this bench, Caprio said evenly. We take responsibility. A ripple moved through the benches. The father tried a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I support half the town, police drives, scholarship funds. I'm not here to argue fairness. Then you've come to the wrong room, the judge replied. Fairness lives here. Nathan exhaled, a little laugh out of place. It's just speed, not a felony. In a neighborhood where children play, Caprio said, the difference between 20 and 60 is the difference between a scare and a funeral. Silence pressed in. The father's jaw set. We're not doing moral theater today, Judge. We are, Caprio answered, because law without morals is paperwork. Nathan shifted, restless. The judge opened the file, a thin packet, but heavier than it looked. You were clocked near Elm Street at 7:40 a.m., crossing guard on duty. You ignored his signal. Nathan's eyes flicked up. Didn't see him. That's the trouble with hurry, Caprio said. It narrows a man's world to the length of his hood ornament. The father's voice cooled. Let's not overstate. Let's not understate, the judge returned. He set the papers down, then looked at the young man, not his father. Mr. Reynolds, I don't want your family's resume. I want your words. Nathan hesitated, glanced sideways. The father gave the smallest nod, the kind that had opened doors his entire life. Caprio lifted a hand. No signals, no coaching. If you can drive 40 over alone, you can speak for yourself. The room held its breath. A camera's red light winked in the back row, then dimmed as if even the lens were waiting. Nathan swallowed. I was late. For what? Caprio asked. Does it matter? It will, the judge said, because before we talk about a fine, we're going to talk about why you think time you didn't manage should be paid for with risk you didn't bear. The father shifted forward. Judge. Sit, Caprio said, not loud, but final. He slid the file aside. We'll set the rest of the docket aside until we finish here. A murmur rose. He tapped the gavel once. Order. Then, looking only at the son, this court isn't a cashier. It's a mirror. You can step out as you came in, or you can look. He paused. Which will it be? The silence that followed felt like gravity. Caprio didn't rush to fill it. He waited, letting the courtroom air grow thick enough that even the cameras stopped humming. Finally, he said, Mr. Reynolds Sr., you seem to believe this is your case. It isn't. It's your son's. The father crossed his legs, slow, deliberate. With respect, Your Honor, I'm here because I know how the world works. When you've built something worth protecting, you don't leave it to chance or to 22-year-old mistakes. Caprio studied him. You built your life by control. That's clear. But control doesn't make a man honest. It only keeps him afraid of losing what he owns. The father's smile faltered. You think I'm afraid? I started with nothing. I earned every cent, every property, every headline. 200 employees, 5 dealerships. I give back to this city. Scholarships, food drives, police funding. You don't do that if you're running from fear. You can't buy freedom from it either, Caprio replied. Generosity isn't currency for moral debt. The father's voice sharpened. I've paid my dues. I'm not the villain here. No, the judge said quietly. You're the author. Nathan shifted beside him, eyes low. Caprio turned to him. And you, son, what's your role in the family empire? I run the company's marketing, social media, branding. So, the judge said, you sell the image of success. That's part of it. And when the image cracks? Nathan's jaw tensed. We fix it. Caprio nodded slowly. You don't repair the truth. You repaint it. The father leaned forward, voice low but hard. Judge, this line of questioning, what's its point? The point, Caprio said, is that your son has learned that rules are flexible if you're rich enough to bend them. Nathan opened his mouth, then stopped. The judge noticed the hesitation, the flicker of something human in the practiced stillness. Tell me, Nathan, Caprio said, when was the last time you did something wrong, and your father didn't clean it up? The young man looked at his hands. I don't know. The father interjected, that's parenting. You protect your children. No, Caprio said softly. You protect children. You teach adults. The courtroom's hum returned, a restless shuffle of people hearing truth they didn't expect. Caprio flipped a page in the file. Last year, same charge, closed due to insufficient evidence. The officer's report mentions your name, Mr. Reynolds, Sr. Did you call someone? The father's jaw tightened. I know people. That's not the same as knowing right from wrong, the judge said. Nathan's shoulders slumped. He just didn't want bad press. Caprio leaned forward. And you? I didn't want to disappoint him. There it is, the judge said. You fear your father more than the law. That's how arrogance is born, when fear dresses up as pride. The father looked away, face like stone. Caprio closed the folder. You keep saying the system is unfair, but what you really mean is that, for once, it doesn't belong to you. Nathan's eyes met the judge's for the first time. Then maybe that's good, he said quietly. The father turned sharply toward him, startled. Caprio gave a small nod. Perhaps today, we'll find out what a man sounds like when he speaks without a script. Caprio tapped the file once, then looked at the young man. Nathan, there's a note here. An earlier incident. Property damage in a school zone. Sound familiar? The father immediately leaned forward. That case was closed. We handled it. Handled, the judge repeated. An interesting word. He read aloud. Vehicle registered to Reynolds Motors struck a fence near Lincoln Elementary. No injuries. Property replaced at private expense. $30,000. No further action. The father smiled faintly, as if proud. Yes, I paid for the repairs. The school was grateful. You paid, Caprio said. That's not the same as taking responsibility. I did what any decent man would do. You did what any powerful man does, Caprio corrected. You bought silence. Nathan's voice, quieter now. Your Honor, I wasn't driving that day. Caprio looked up sharply. Excuse me? It was a friend of mine. I was with him. Dad said it was easier if we didn't say anything. The damage was small. We fixed it. The father's tone hardened. Nathan. But Caprio didn't look away. You took the blame? I didn't take anything. I just didn't deny it. So you learned that truth is optional, Caprio said. The father spread his hands. Come now, Judge. It was a minor accident. We spared everyone the paperwork. Caprio's eyes narrowed. You spared your son the weight of consequence, and in doing so, you taught him that honesty is negotiable. Nathan stared at the table. I never meant to hurt anyone. That's not the point, Caprio said softly. The danger isn't in what you meant. It's in what you're becoming. For a moment, the room felt smaller, as if every light had turned inward. The father broke the silence. Enough. He's nervous, that's all. I told him not to talk. He's emotional. Let him be, Caprio said. Emotion's the only real thing I've heard from either of you today. Nathan's shoulders trembled. I didn't want to come here. He said it would make us look weak. What do you think now? I think. Nathan hesitated, voice cracking. I think I was wrong. I was driving too fast. I saw the crossing sign too late. If there'd been someone there... He stopped. His father reached out, but Nathan pulled away. Caprio nodded once. And yet, you're the first in your family to tell the truth under oath. That counts for something. The father tried to recover. Judge, you're turning a small infraction into a morality play. No, Caprio said. You did that. You came in here believing your money made the rules bend. All I did was let gravity do its work. The father clenched his jaw, his authority cracking for the first time. Caprio's tone softened, but his words cut sharper. Do you know what I see, Mr. Reynolds? A man who's built an empire so his son would never taste fear. And now he's choking on it. Nathan wiped his eyes. He didn't want me to fail. I know, Caprio said gently, but failure is how men grow. Without it, you stay children wearing expensive suits. The father didn't respond. The silence pressed until the judge finally spoke again. You both said this was a small matter. But small things reveal everything. Character isn't tested by what we do in crisis. It's tested by what we do when we think no one's watching. He paused, then leaned back in his chair. And right now, everyone is watching. The father met his gaze, for the first time without a smirk. Then, Caprio said quietly, maybe it's time they saw who you really are. The courtroom was still. You could almost hear the hum of the fluorescent lights over the quiet. Judge Caprio set his glasses down and looked at the father. Mr. Reynolds, he said slowly, your son just admitted what you've been denying. You heard him. The father shifted, his confidence slipping into irritation. He's young, emotional. I'll talk to him after this. Caprio leaned forward. No, you'll listen to him now. Because for once, he's telling the truth. And you're still selling the illusion. The father's tone sharpened. I built everything we have. You think I'll let a single mistake tear it down? Caprio. The problem isn't the mistake. It's that you built your success like armor, thick enough to keep out the truth. A long pause. Then the judge turned to the bailiff. Bring in Mrs. Donovan. The door opened. A woman in her 50s, wearing a modest coat, stepped inside. She nodded respectfully to the judge, then to Nathan. Caprio addressed the court. This woman witnessed the incident we've been discussing. The father straightened instantly. You're reopening that? I'm finishing it, Caprio said. The woman spoke quietly. I was walking my class across the street that morning. His car came fast, too fast. One of my students froze on the curb. If she'd stepped forward 1 second earlier. She stopped, voice trembling. We'd be talking about a funeral. Nathan's eyes filled. The father's expression faltered. Caprio asked, "Mr. Reynolds Sr., you called it a minor issue. Is it still minor?" The father's throat tightened. "I didn't know there were children." "You didn't ask," Caprio replied. The father's voice rose. "I was trying to protect him. That's what fathers do." Caprio's tone stayed calm, but cut deep. Fathers protect their children from danger, not from accountability. Nathan's voice broke in. "I didn't even see them, Dad. I just didn't look." The father turned toward him, helpless for the first time. "I thought I was saving you from the world's judgment." Caprio said, "And you taught him to fear honesty more than guilt. Tell me, who saved him from you?" For a long moment, no one spoke. The father's jaw trembled. The son looked down at his hands. Then Caprio continued, "There's one more detail, Mr. Reynolds. Your company sponsors the city's school safety initiative, the same program that repaired that fence you broke." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Caprio. Imagine the irony. The man funding safety nearly caused its absence. "You see why I call this more than a ticket?" The father slumped slightly. "You don't understand what it's like to have everything you worked for threatened." "Oh, I do," Caprio said softly. "But you're mistaken about what's being threatened. It's not your wealth. It's your son's conscience." The room stayed silent. Even the cameras felt intrusive now, their blinking lights like eyes witnessing a reckoning. Caprio's voice lowered to almost a whisper. "When power forgets empathy, it collapses from within. You don't need another dealership, Mr. Reynolds. You need humility." The father's hands shook. His son reached toward him hesitantly. Caprio tapped the gavel once. "This court will recess until tomorrow morning. Between now and then, I suggest you both decide which costs more, your pride or your peace." He looked at the father one last time. Money can rebuild a fence. It can't rebuild a soul. The next morning, the courtroom was quieter than before. No cameras whispered, no phones flickered. Only two men sat at the defense table, father and son, without their usual entourage. Judge Caprio entered and gave a small nod. Mr. Reynolds Jr., we continue." Charles Reynolds rose before his son could. His voice was lower, tired. "Your Honor, I've spent a long night thinking about what you said yesterday." Caprio leaned back. "And what did you discover?" "That I've been running a business longer than I've been a father. I built an empire so my boy wouldn't feel small, but I made him hollow instead." Nathan glanced up, startled, as if hearing his father speak honestly for the first time. Caprio said gently, "Sometimes it takes losing control to finally understand what control cost you." The father nodded. "He didn't deserve my arrogance." Caprio turned to the son. "And you, Nathan? What did the night teach you?" Nathan hesitated. "That I've been hiding behind his name. I thought it made me powerful. Now it just feels heavy." He exhaled slowly. "I couldn't sleep either. I kept seeing that crossing sign. I imagined the little girl who froze on the curb. If she'd taken one more step." He didn't finish. The judge's tone softened. "Regret is proof that your heart's still working." Nathan swallowed hard. "Your Honor, I don't want to just pay a fine. I want to do something to make it right." Caprio folded his hands. "What do you have in mind?" Nathan looked at his father, then back at the judge. "I want to fund safety lessons in every elementary school our company sponsors. I'll visit them myself, talk to the students. Not as Reynolds, as someone who almost made a terrible mistake." The gallery stirred, whispering. Caprio nodded slowly. "That's a start. But before good deeds come understanding. He paused, then opened a folder. Yesterday, I received something unexpected. A letter. From Mrs. Donovan, the teacher who testified. She doesn't want financial compensation. She wrote, "Tell the young man I forgive him, but I hope he learns to see the people who live beyond his windshield." Nathan's eyes glistened. Caprio looked to the father. "And you, sir, what will you do with this moment?" Charles took a deep breath. "I can't erase what I taught him, but I can stop teaching the wrong lesson. I'll set up a program in my company, community service hours for every employee, including me. Maybe we start fixing something other than cars." A quiet murmur of approval swept through the courtroom. Caprio smiled faintly. "For a man who's spent his life buying solutions, you just found one money can't touch." Charles's voice broke slightly. "Your Honor, I thought respect came from being feared, but last night I realized it only comes from being decent." Nathan turned toward him. "I don't hate you, Dad. I just wanted to be seen." The father placed a trembling hand on his son's shoulder. "I see you now." Caprio's tone warmed but stayed firm. "Gentlemen, truth doesn't erase the past, but it can rebuild the future, if you keep it alive when no one's watching." He closed the file. "Tomorrow I'll deliver my verdict, but I'll tell you this much. I've seen men buy their way out of trouble. I've rarely seen one buy his way back into humanity." He tapped the gavel once, softly. Court adjourned. As they rose, father and son didn't rush to leave. They stood for a moment, side by side, not as a businessman and heir, but as two people who, for the first time, didn't need to win to feel whole. The courtroom filled again, but something in the air was different. No tension, no cameras, just quiet anticipation. Judge Caprio entered, nodded to the clerk, and turned toward the Reynolds family. "Mr. Reynolds? Mr. Reynolds, Jr.," he began evenly. "I've had time to consider everything said in this court. The arrogance, the honesty, and finally, the courage to face what neither of you wanted to see." Nathan sat straighter. His father clasped his hands together, waiting. Caprio continued, "The law allows me to impose a fine, even a license suspension. But the law also allows discretion when punishment teaches nothing. So today, we'll talk about consequence, not currency." He looked first at the son. "Nathan Reynolds, you drove recklessly in a residential area. You endangered lives and then hid behind your father's name. But yesterday, for the first time, you stood on your own." Nathan swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Honor." "You will perform 200 hours of community service," Caprio said, "at the very schools your company sponsors. You'll speak to students about accountability, about what happens when ego takes the wheel." "Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to," Nathan replied quietly. Caprio turned to the father. "And you, Charles Reynolds, you used wealth as armor. You believed money could bend truth. You've donated millions, yet somehow gave nothing of yourself. That ends today." Charles's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "You will spend 1 week volunteering in this courthouse," Caprio continued, "not as a benefactor, but as a clerk's assistant, seeing how justice works when it can't be bought. You'll file, you'll listen, you'll wait. That's the sentence I consider fitting for a man who's never had to wait for anything." A faint smile touched the corners of the judge's mouth. "Don't worry. We won't charge you for the experience." A ripple of restrained laughter moved through the room. Even Charles's face softened. Then Caprio's tone grew quiet again. "You two came here trying to protect an image. You'll leave having discovered something better. Integrity. That's a rarer fortune than all your dealerships combined. The father looked at his son, eyes glistening. Thank you, Judge, for making us face what success hid. Caprio nodded once. People often think punishment is the end of a story. It's not. It's the start of a better one. He lifted his gavel, hesitated, and added softly, Gentlemen, you're free to go. But remember, freedom isn't doing what you want. It's doing what's right, even when no one applauds. He struck the gavel. Case closed. The sound echoed through the room like punctuation on a life lesson. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited, but neither father nor son stopped for interviews. Instead, they walked in silence to an old sedan Nathan had borrowed. No chauffeur, no convoy, just the two of them. Charles placed a hand on his son's shoulder. You drive, he said. Nathan looked surprised. After all this? His father nodded. You'll drive better now. Weeks later, local news caught a glimpse of them again, in a school gym, surrounded by children. Nathan was speaking about choices. His father stood quietly in the back, folding chairs when it ended. The story went viral, not because of scandal, but because of humility. One comment beneath the video read, "This is what redemption looks like. Not loud, not polished, just real." At the end of the clip, Judge Caprio's voice played from the earlier hearing. You can rebuild a business after failure. But when you rebuild a conscience, that's wealth beyond measure. And as the screen faded to black, a single line appeared beneath the courthouse seal. True justice doesn't punish the heart. It teaches it to beat again.